Good evening. My name is Scott Warner, and I'm president of the Culinary Historians of Chicago. And welcome to this saucy BBQ program tonight. We have one of the most illustrious BBQ queens in the country, actually, today, whose place is in Chicago. So we're so lucky to have her. Let me tell you who we've got tonight to discuss barbecue history, barbecue definitions, and unfortunately, we can't give live samples, but we have, I'm sorry, Dominique Leach tonight. Dominique is the Chicago chef and pitmaster of the award-winning restaurant Lexington Betty's Smokehouse, and she's the 2023 winner of the Food Network's hit show BBQ Brawl. And she's making her life is to make her mission to further define the unique style that of her barbecue. Now tonight, well, anyway, Dominique is a classically trained chef. She turned nationally recognized pitmaster. She gained some of her culinary experience in some of Chicago's most prestigious kitchens under the direction of such icons as Tony Mantuano of Spiaggia and Sarah Grueneberg at Monteverde. And then Dominique then branched out with her wife, Tanisha, in 2016 to create her own catering company, Cater to You events and drop-offs. And Dominique was inspired by childhood memories of her grandmother, Betty, that's the name of her place, Lexington Betty's Smokehouse, Betty King of Lexington, Mississippi, who filled the house with flavorful aromas of home-cooked meals. And Dominique is going to talk about her grandmother and how she inspired her. And Dominique's expertise earned her a spot on the Food Network show Chopped, and as a judge contestant on Food Network's Canada Fire Masters. She's recognized as the best barbecue in Chicago by Good Morning America. And she is also recognized for her full restaurant, Lexington Betty on Chicago's South Side. So Dominique, and I will be asking Dominique questions after she speaks. Well, actually, I'm going to be asking her questions. She's going to be speaking as I'm asking her questions. And we encourage you to put your questions in chat so we can ask the questions of Dominique that you want to ask. So anyway, Dominique, welcome. And one of the first questions I want to ask you is, I spoke about your background a little bit, but can you speak about your background as a chef and how you got into food?
Well, how you doing, Scott? Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. We're gonna really grill you tonight, so you better be ready.
Well, my culinary background started here in Chicago. I went to culinary school right out of high school, was very enthusiastic about it. Cooking was always really fun to me. It was interesting. I enjoyed getting better at it and people's reaction of good food when I made good food. It wasn't always great early on. During my time in culinary school, I did my part by doing some internships, a lot of stages, and I worked at a lot of wonderful restaurants around the city, doing my part to, for the most part, gain knowledge and work with different chefs just so that I can take something positive or something that'll help me in my career and the trajectory towards it. Moving forward. And so I was always just really determined. It wasn't easy early on. School was difficult, early classes, long hours, and I always had a job in the evening. I think by my second year of culinary school, all of my jobs were kitchen jobs. And so there were times where I was I was in school, working at Lori's Prime Rib, interning at the Standard Club. If a job was only able to take me part-time, I would have 2 part-time jobs. Like I said, I was just really enthusiastic. As I got better, I spent a lot of years working at the Art Institute Museum, which was a wonderful experience. We just used to do some amazing events there, galas, and the Art Institute really helped me to hone my cooking skills in different cultural foods. And so it really helped contribute to the chef that I am today because I'm well versed in different cuisines, which is something that I personally feel like is necessary if you're gonna call yourself a chef. Um, when I was working at the Four Seasons Hotel, I can't say it was for any particular reason, but a feeling came over me on my first day working there as I walked inside. Well, I remember like no one saying hi to me, and it wasn't anything personal. It was just I was walking through the back kitchen area. Everyone was busy, walking through room service, seeing the operation there, and everyone was busy. And I walked over to the grill where I was working. I put my knife kit down and I said, "This is going to be my last job." Just because I'd grown so familiar with that feeling of being invisible or unappreciated. I'd actually left my job at a kosher catering company where I was the executive chef to take a step to the side in my career and pick up the line cook job at the Four Seasons. A lot of people would wonder, as well as the director of operations at the Four Seasons at the time, who leaves an executive chef job to take on a line cook position. And I'm that type of person. I like to roll the dice, and I was really confident in my skills. So I was confident that I would move up the ladder and become sous chef and maybe even executive chef of that hotel one day. And so that's why I took the job. It really helped. This job particularly really helped towards my tenacity and just with tasks and in the business. But on the flip side, I noticed that as I got better in my field, kind of pulled me away from people on a personal side. I felt like I was being very short with people and just always work minded. I know that can be very positive. Part of that is due to where I am today in my career, but it's something that I noticed at the Four Seasons. Just became like a like a machine, and so I was doing my job very well, but I was at a place in my life where I just felt like I wanted a challenge, and that's usually how I am. I'm very like on to the next, need something to keep me excited, and I really just always anxious to learn, especially in food and in the food industry. I've just always really been into it, and so uh, I left the kitchen at the Four Seasons and transferred to the front of the house as a server. And it was actually the first time it had ever happened in the Chicago Four Seasons history. It just never happened. It was an odd move, but the front of the house really needed a server because they had just lost two at the same time. And I had a situation with the executive chef, a situation like I've seen so many times where the chef was pretty abrasive with me, said some really personal things. I was just at a place in my life where, I was feeling like I was done with the yes chefs. I felt like I had paid my dues, felt like I was great at my job, I was responsible and can be relied upon. And so I just wasn't sticking around to kind of be part of that environment anymore. So I made the decision to move to the front of the house. It's one of the best decisions I've ever made because turned out servers at the Four Seasons made good money. So I have all this extra money now, and I decided to get into real estate. And so I purchased my first home, and then I purchased a building. And when I got bored again, I decided to start a catering company. So now I'm serving at the Four Seasons, missing food and all the chaos that comes from the kitchen. And I just decided to step out on the limb and do something for myself. And so I said, hey, if nothing else, I'll just design some PDFs, some business cards, menus, you know, just to kind of be an introduction to people that I'm available and can cater your events. And it started off with me posting pictures of fruit platters and posting them on Facebook. And I love telling this story because a lot of times we are intimidated to do something or make that next step in life. And sometimes, you know, it is as small as a mustard seed. And so it was just a fruit platter. I was good at them. They were always attractive and I wanted to share the photo. And so fruit platters turned into, so that led to people showing interest in different cuisines that I offered in my menu. And so I just made myself available for any and everyone that might want a catering from me. And when I, you know, gained some popularity and started to get busy, I thought that I could be even busier if I just kind of like honed in on my concept. And what that looked like to me was a smaller menu and something to specifically concentrate on. I thought if I made a concept and put my energy into that, highlighting that specifically, and specifically what made the concept special, I might get a little more traction. And so I came up with this idea to purchase this delivery food truck so that I can support my growing catering company, but also slowly transition into this concept that I had in mind. And so that concept was Lexington Betty Smokehouse. I essentially took my catering menu, the soul food part of my catering menu, and the barbecue menu, and combined the two. And what's so great about that is it was actually a concept that I had written down a total of 3 times throughout my culinary career, just in little chef doodle pads that I've kept over the years. It was always smoked meats with different sides. There was a time I wrote it down and it had like beer battered onion rings and baked beans, hand cut fries. And there was other times where I did, you know, different sides, Mexican style corn, some type of grilled cabbage slaw. And then there was the third time where there was smoked meats and the soulful sides. And I thought it was a really great idea immediately. And so it was time to think of a name for this concept. And said, well, it has to be something that has substance because, you know, everything in my career had been about just looking forward to the next day and the next task, the next event, and just still very enthusiastic about the industry and my potential growth in it. I just wanted it to feel special. And I came up with Lexington Betty, naming it after my grandmother, Betty King from Lexington, Mississippi. And it was then and still is the perfect name. It epitomizes the concept, and the concept in return epitomizes it. And so almost 5 years in Pullman now. I believe the restaurant is a pillar of the community. It has always felt like the right place to be because the community has always been very receptive, very supportive, and made me feel like I was at home. I've only lived on the South Side a short time in my life when I bought that building that I mentioned. But that same building is where my food truck was set on fire at. So after that happened, I just didn't have much nice things to say about the South Side. I feel a lot better about it now. I'm the type of person that believes that sometimes hard things can happen in life, but it's up to you to be optimistic that things will be better and also put some effort towards things being better. So I just kept my determined, optimistic energy. I got up the next day. Um, I worked and continued towards the concept and building it. I replaced the food truck in 5 months, 4 or 5 months. It was set on fire in October. I replaced it in March. And it was a really difficult time, but I've learned that I'm just really good at navigating around difficult things. So I just try to keep things positive and not let things tear me down. And so I'm really happy that, I've just been so consistent and, just so driven to really be the best. I want my name to be in the conversation every single time. And I work hard so that I can hold myself up and have standards for myself and believe in the words that come out of my mouth. And so I stand before you, a experienced chef, raised and career raised right here in Chicago. And it's been the funnest ride I could have ever imagined. And I'm still excited for every day and the next move and every news segment, article, just still very excited about also what's to come.
Um, I'm going to grill you a little bit about barbecue and the styles and everything, but do you miss um, not cooking filet mignon or salmon with béarnaise sauce or your barbecue now? Do you ever get tired of doing barbecue? Do you yearn to cook other things?
Yes, it is actually something that I think about pretty often. I do miss it. I miss it a lot. I miss Italian food a lot. Um, I miss fine dining. I miss the culture of the kitchen. The type of respect that comes with the type of things that I've been through at an entry level position at a fast casual restaurant like Lexington Betty. A lot of time you have to hire young people or people with less experience. And some people they just don't understand the capacity of kind of growing up and growing knowledge and being special in this industry. And you know, I can I encourage myself and people around me, and I can only hope to make a difference in someone else's career and maybe even drop some gems that they carry along with them for all of their lives. And so yeah, I try to encourage people. I'm typically encouraged through food, and I've certainly been missing um, the industry in the way that I seen it when I was a culinary student and all of those years at the Art Institute in Spiaggia. And so I've been making an effort to just kind of like show the world that, hey, there's a lot more to Chef Dominique Leach than barbecue. And there certainly is. And so when I get a chance and I'm at different venues or doing different type of events that are not barbecue, I just always make the food shine. I'm typically a pleasant surprise. I think I still unfortunately walk in rooms and people are like, "Oh, she's just a barbecue chef." But yeah, I wouldn't underestimate me.
Um, you also had like a career on TV too. Can you talk about your your foray into culinary showbiz? What you've done on TV?
Yeah, I love doing the competition shows. I've been really fortunate to be able to sell myself to that market. I think it helps that I'm just super competitive and still really passionate, like I mentioned. And so they're always fun. I wish I could do them more often. I like them. BBQ Brawl was the last one that I was on that has aired. And that was a wonderful show, a series. So I think there was 10 episodes. So I got to make great friends, different pit masters that live all over the country. And it was a wonderful experience. I'm going to hold with me forever. But I love, love, love the competitions. They're really fun.
Now, barbecue is such a general name. Can you educate us? A lot of us know this already, but we could use a refresher. What are the different barbecue styles? And then talk about what the kind of style that you do. How did barbecue evolve? And what are the different regional styles with the names that have been given to the styles?
Yeah. Well, I think every region will have an interesting story for like how they got started, just like, or how barbecue originated, just like different cultures will have different stories. And so some of those popular barbecue spaces would be Texas. They would kind of be known as the reigning champions when it comes to barbecue. Um, which it can be surprising because I think Texas barbecue can be um some of the most humble barbecue. A lot of times, as good as it is, a lot of times you're eating meat with just salt and pepper. And although I'm not opposed to that at all, but that's Texas style barbecue, a salt and pepper rub. Um Nonetheless, I really enjoy it. North Carolina barbecue sauce has a vinegar base, and that has always kind of been the difference in North Carolina barbecue as opposed to Texas or even Memphis, who is known for their dry rub, which I know people always say Memphis is known for the dry rub, but Memphis has the best type of barbecue and barbecue sauce, in my opinion. St. Louis style barbecue sauce. They like to believe they have their own style. I think it's very similar to Memphis style barbecue. I've even gotten familiar with California style barbecue, which is like Chicago, very different from other regions of barbecue. In California, they're cooking tri-tip and using a lot of fresh ingredients, avocado and agua frescas, serving those type of things with barbecue. In Chicago, you know, people always, that's always like a blank area. What kind of barbecue is being served in Chicago? And I always tell people some of the best barbecue you can get in the country. It really is. The origins of it is really special because rib tips that mean so much to the barbecue scene in Chicago used to be looked at as food that was served in underserved areas. And the street vendors used to get them from the meatpacking district for dirt cheap and then smoke meat on carts around the city and sell them, sell the sauce, sell the rib tips from the cart for dirt cheap. And it's so great that it's great to see where Chicago barbecue is today, considering where it started. And I think we take some of the special parts of Texas, Memphis, and North Carolina, and we combine them all because, you know, the truth is barbecue is very Southern here in Chicago. Southern food is influenced from the South. And so the Great Migration from the North caused people to bring their Southern influences to Chicago. And so that's why the barbecue here resembles barbecue from other regions of the country, like Texas, North Carolina, and Memphis. But we certainly have our own identity with things like turkey tips that you're not going to find in barbecue restaurants anywhere in the country. Rib tips, I've been in Texas and gone to a barbecue restaurant and asked for rib tips, and they literally did not even know what I was talking about. In fact, when I was on BBQ Brawl, the producers gave us an opportunity to pick some ingredients that they otherwise might not have had, and rib tips was one of those things. And they actually couldn't get rib tips for me in California. They just weren't available. And so what we did was we cut the tip off of the spare rib to make rib tips. And it wasn't a big spare rib, so the rib tips were the bone in it was very big. If you're familiar with rib tips here in Chicago, you know, we want to get away from that bone. We like the gristle. So but it's what makes us unique. It's what makes us different. And we can't forget our style barbecue sauce here in Chicago. Now, there are plenty of restaurants you can go to in Chicago, and there's going to be sauce and even smoked meat that resembles a different region. And they're doing that on purpose. And I think, you know, that is important and it should be a part of the conversation. It's classic barbecue, and I'm here for it. But I like to do a little bit of both and make sure that we are celebrating what makes Chicago unique and the barbecue here so special.
What distinguishes good barbecue from mediocre or bad barbecue? How are we going to judge? I mean, you know, if something has a nice sauce, but maybe it isn't prepared well, but how can we be gourmet barbecue eaters?
I think it starts with the seasoning, the temperature of the meat after that, and then the resting process. I know when I'm eating barbecue, like I just judged a competition at U Chicago this past weekend, and they served ribs. So with the ribs, I was looking for a specific type of bite. You want those ribs to be tender for sure, but you don't want them literally falling off the bone. Um, there's a science to it. And if you left the membrane on, I can usually tell there's a certain snap, but I think there is certainly a way to do that right. And we're talking about ribs specifically. With the chicken, one of the things that I judge is if the skin still has integrity and even a little crunch to it, like some crispiness to it. And so, you know, I think there is a short margin of error when it comes to barbecue. But a good sauce can help fix a situation. But I growing up, I thought I was eating good barbecue my entire life until I became an adult and was like, wow, that barbecue my auntie was making was so overcooked and over seasoned. And so, you know, there's certainly science to it. It means, you know, balance is important and technique. And, you know, it just means having some experience with whatever meat that you're dealing with and seasoning it well.
Now, one technique, of course, is slow smoking, but don't some people boil the ribs first and then do something? I hear people have referred to that as meat jello because it falls off the bone. I mean, what do you think of ribs that are boiled first?
Um, I don't particularly enjoy it. I know some people still do it. I think it was something people would do to kind of tenderize the meat a little more before they got into the smoking. I think it just typically comes from a lack of experience. I think if you have the knowledge, you can obviously get meat tender enough directly off of the grill or the smoker. But I think it's a safety net. Yes, safe to say it's a safety net. And you know, I get it. I don't think it celebrates the meat in the best way, and I don't think it is going to give you the best flavor profile.
And what's the future of Chicago style barbecue? And um, how do you what do you predict will stay with it, and how's it going to evolve, or is it just going to stay the same wonderful way it is now?
It is wonderful. And this was actually the question I thought about the most that you had sent me. It's a tricky question because when you think about the evolution of barbecue in Chicago, I think that it's probably like the needle hasn't been pushed that far. I do see evolution in our future though. The Food Network said that I was single-handedly responsible for putting barbecue on, or mainstream barbecue on the map in the Midwest. And as great of a compliment as that is, that's like, to think about it is like, really? Like, is no one thinking about how good barbecue is in different regions outside of the few that we always talk about? And so I think for that reason, there are going to be young people that come up after me that always want to, just elevate it and make their mark on the industry or make their mark in barbecue, and just continue to add to the conversation. And so, when I think about young people in barbecue, I think they're really smart people. I see people doing really fun stuff. My restaurant was the only restaurant that I could think of, not just on the South Side, but in the city of Chicago, that was serving soul food sides with their barbecue. So I think that alone is evolution. I think it's just being brought to the forefront through me, but this is how I grew up eating at family events. And so I'm just happy to, share my culture with the rest of the world, or with anyone that's willing to try a plate.
And finally, there aren't too many women in the barbecue field. And for those involved today, like you, how do you think, if this is a proper question, how women are changing the barbecue scene?
I love to see more women barbecuing, just because women are my favorite kind of chefs. They're just so efficient, and I think women chefs do a great job at being professional and um being professional and evolving like every single aspect of the business at the same time. And I know how important that is, because coming from a corporate kitchen, there's been a lot of times where my opinion has not been valued in the way that I would hope. And the older I get and talk to more women in the industry, a lot of them feel the same way. And so, I'm here for it. I love to see women just go after whatever it is. I think a strong woman is capable of anything. And so barbecue is, such a small things, and such a small thing in terms of what we're capable of. But I love to see the space being filled with more women, because it should. I think whatever is on your creative mind or heart, you should put it out there into the world, and make it special, however you see best.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Kathy. Kathy, did you have any questions before we turn it over to the chat questions to our audience? Kathy?
Oh,
know
I'm
about
fine.
barbecue.
I may turn around and ask a question, but we'll start with at least one question is here, and it was one that we kind of covered back in January, so I know almost the reaction we're going to get. Is the aquarium essential for making Chicago-style barbecue? That's that glass enclosed barbecue that you guys were like flipping out about.
No, I don't think it's necessary for essential barbecue. Honestly, when I see them, I wonder how people are getting insurance for them. I wanted an aquarium smoker, and that is when I learned of all of the red tape around them. And so I really, to this day, I don't know how other restaurants have gotten around it, but I know State Farm, they told me, don't even try it. We're not gonna insure um a aquarium smoker. They're about to be outlawed in the city. And I know they're dangerous. It is certainly a craft something that you have to be good at. I'm not familiar with it. I look at them, they're a little intimidating. I know with some time I would be good with them. I think the aquarium smoker epitomizes Chicago barbecue. I don't believe you have to have one to serve it. I think they're nice to see. I think they are nice in terms of the aroma in the neighborhood. Yeah, are they necessary? No. I've had barbecue grate off of the aquarium and barbecue grate off of a Southern Pride.
What is dangerous about the aquarium?
The aquarium is, well, what you have is a indoor open fire concept, essentially. It's a wood burning oven, and it has to be managed just like any wood fire piece of equipment would be. And so one of the things you have to do pretty often is you have to douse it with water, just so the flames are not getting too high, but instead the water is helping to kind of create a steam or a smoke, and that smoke is what obviously adds the flavor to the meat.
So what do you use?
I use a Southern Pride. Yep.
And what kind of wood?
I use apple wood.
Oh, that's cool. Now, when and so when you walk into another barbecue establishment, what is your order to figure out so you can sort of gauge it against what you do?
You know what? I always get like way too much stuff. So I have I have to try the ribs. If they have brisket, I have to try the brisket. And I really like to try the sides. And I typically get like a smoked chicken wing if they have that, and maybe a fun sauce to accompany it. Because a lot of barbecue restaurants, and this is why I do smoked chicken wings, but here in Chicago, a lot of the South Side barbecue restaurants serve fried chicken wings. And even as a kid, I always wondered, why do they do that? I mean, why serve fried chicken at a barbecue restaurant, right? Why not just serve barbecue chicken? But I do it for that reason, because a lot of people are doing fried chicken instead. So I try to stay true to it.
So do you order sauce on it or sauce on the side?
Sauce on the side. Yep, sauce on the side, just so I can taste the flavor profile, the texture of the meat, and then I doused everything in sauce.
Do you have any just in case, because I've heard stories about the 2 pieces of white bread that seems to come with a lot of barbecue fries and 2 pieces of white bread.
Yeah, that's Chicago-style barbecue. 2 pieces of white bread is gonna be covering your food right on top of the sauce. It's never been my thing. I've even like tried to like lean towards like the sliced bread with the food, and I've learned that like our clientele isn't into it either. Like we do cornbread muffins, and that's our thing. And that also works out with the soulful sides. If I'm having greens, I want a cornbread muffin to go with those greens. So I think I get a free pass when it comes to that white bread, because, like I said, we want to celebrate what is Chicago style barbecue, but it's always evolving as well. So I always want to evolve what we're doing here and stand out amongst other restaurants. So yeah, typically if you go to a South Side barbecue restaurant, you're gonna get the bread on top. I see some of the other barbecue restaurants, they're offering the bread on the side. We're gonna stick with the cornbread muffin.
Elaine commented here, she goes, we always call it dumb white bread.
Someone thanked me recently. She said, thank you so much for not putting bread on top of my kids' food, because they actually hate that so much they would not have eaten it. She said they just complain. They think it's the weirdest thing. And she just wanted to thank me for it. And I was like, No problem. I know people are into it. It's super, it's old school. It's almost like classic South Side, you know? But we make our bread from scratch and it's just like, it's just our thing. I hope people appreciate it as much as I do. I think so.
Sounds like it. It sounds like it. We were talking before everybody joined us tonight about some of the busiest months of the year, and I thought you should probably share that with people.
Yeah, well, we've been in business since 2016, and the busiest month had always been November. Now we obviously get like large barbecue events throughout the summer. We've grown over the years, but Thanksgiving was always the most hustle and bustle, the most catering orders, the biggest day to need extra hands and strategy for sure. But over the past few years, maybe the past 4 years, um, Juneteenth has become the busiest month for us. It's easily the craziest time of the year. And corporate companies are making sure that they shop Black. And so every other day we have a big catering, we have food truck events, and then on the day of, we'll make commitments to feed some companies 3 times a day.
What are they typically ordering?
Well, what they're doing is feeding their staff for the holiday. And so they'll feed all 3 shifts. They typically get a assortment of meats and sides. Seen a lot of jambalaya this past June, always rib tips. Sometimes if the company's being really nice, they'll get brisket, a lot of pulled pork, whole lot of pulled pork. What else? A lot of sliders, a lot of like cocktail party foods, and a whole lot of macaroni and cheese.
Isn't brisket one of your highlights of your personal barbecue? Or if I'm mistaken, tell me what it is.
Um, brisket is brisket's so special to me because I actually taught myself how to make brisket. I had brisket for the first time at a barbecue restaurant in Austin, Texas. It's either El Barbecue or La Barbecue. And the brisket was incredible. I literally bit into it and I said, I have to give people this feeling when they bite into my food. And so I came back to Chicago, and for some reason I was so spontaneous. I tested 2 brisket at the same time. So what that means is I ruined 2 brisket at the same time. But I actually read about it. I went and I read about them a little more, and they got better and better and better. And now we're known for some of the best brisket in Chicago.
That's fantastic. I have not yet made a good brisket, but I'm
Uh,
very proud of my pork shoulder.
good.
That part
I
I
make a
got
good I
down.
make a good pork shoulder too. I I didn't grow up eating it, but I've really grown a love for it. And my wife says it is secretly her favorite meat on our menu.
What about you have also those Wagyu sausages too?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, those are really good. I mean, I haven't gotten sick of them. They're still on the menu, and I'm still eating plenty of them. They're delicious. Also, I think a beef sausage is a unique offer at a restaurant. And so I try to be conscious of what people are looking for. And one thing that I noticed about Black people on the South Side is they were starting to pull away from pork. And so it's crazy. It's like they're pulling away from pork, but it's like bacon and rib tips are the exception. I can't make sense out of it, but I'm going to sell it as long as they're buying it.
Do you also do turkey pieces?
Um, We on occasion will do turkey legs. We used to do them every Sunday. But we also, along with turkey legs, we also order or offer the turkey tips on the catering menu. And they're pretty popular. Like if we have a big order, the company or event usually orders turkey tips just so that, they have some options for different dietary restrictions or, whatever people's preferences. So the turkey tips, they go over very well. We sell them quite a bit.
Because this is now going back like 15, maybe 20 years ago, and it's maybe still happening. But there was a dietitian with the Lake County Health Department that was going to soul food places and asking and suggesting that they switch to smoked turkey parts that they would put into their food as opposed to pork smoked parts because of the fats and everything associated with pork.
Wow, that's
I know it was, and some places actually did switch to turkey.
well, I think if a restaurant in Chicago sells greens, I bet 9 times out of 10 those greens are braised with smoked turkey instead of pork. Because, like I said, there has been like a major shift away from pork and towards turkey. And I'll even tell you this, a major pork company reached out to me and they asked me to help them make some videos. It's funny because I actually just did some work with 2 pork companies, and so there's going to be some videos coming out first, and that's not the company. I won't say the company's name,
That's
but
okay.
they have obviously felt the difference in sales, and so what they want to do is help bring awareness to how pork is safe to eat and can be health conscious. And so I think you'll in the next coming months see a lot of promotions towards pork being healthier because these pork companies are really making an effort to make it as make it a home staple like it was when I was a kid. I know I grew up on some pork steaks and pork chops. But I know we think of pork and associate it with a lack of healthiness, but there are pieces of pork like the loin where that will fit perfectly into a diet. Um, I just know that especially with having the product line, people are really trying to be health conscious, and one of the ways that people do that is like showing interest in where their meat is being sourced and how it's being raised. And I think over the years, there's been a stigma around pork and how it's being raised. And so I think it's unfortunate for the industry. I still cook it every day. It goes over well in my restaurant, and I eat plenty of it. I've been fine.
By the way, Elaine said brisket is really challenging. She goes, I make a great Jewish brisket, but barbecue, still working on it. I have to say, I've only done 2 briskets, but one was a Wagyu brisket. Oh my God. It was the very first time that I ever put my fork down and went, this is too rich. I'll have to have some more later. Everything else I can power through, but a
Yeah.
Wagyu brisket could not.
Yeah,
Tough
no,
to
I
survive.
agree. I agree. That richness, it comes through. I don't think I would want to consume 8 ounces of that. Like you feel it. I mean, it's tasty to eat. You only need a couple bites of that. But you're absolutely right. It was very rich. Actually, Phil Wingo, if you all are barbecue fans here in
Yes, I love it. I was going to ask you if you knew him. I had a feeling you did.
Yes,
Excellent.
Me and Phil were together the other day. He dropped off a pallet of sauce to the restaurant. And he's gonna be one of the pitmasters. I'm having a tailgating event November 17th at the Pullman Community Center. And he's one of the pitmasters that's coming to cook. And uh Phil has a industry night. I think
Yes.
the first Monday of the month.
One of
And
these days you'll find me there.
Okay, well, let me know because I it's time for me to pop into another one. Um,
Cool.
but he did a Wagyu brisket. It was like, "Ooh, this is good," but I've had enough.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But Scott, you may not recall Phil, but when we had that pork roast dinner at uh the school down on 63rd and
Washburn, at Washburn.
yes, at Washburn.
Uh-huh.
Phil supplied, this Phil is a very generous person. He supplied to the people, they came from Indiana to do whole hog pig or cook for us. He supplied them the motorhome and he supplied them the smoker to do it. He's a terrific guy. Just a terrific guy.
I had a quick question here, Kathy. People who cook, at home on their Weber grills or whatever, is that considered barbecuing or is that considered grilling? Or can you?
I have, there's a couple of us here that have a Weber Smoky Mountain. Just so you know.
I love Weber grills. If you watched BBQ Brawl, I did probably most of my cooking on Weber grills. That's what I was raised cooking on. If my mom barbecued, that's what she was barbecuing on. I think of Weber in terms of barbecuing, and I think of grilling when I turn on a gas grill. I think you can grill on a Weber as well. You can just as easily make that a high temperature situation when you get your coals a little warmer and you do a steak on direct heat as opposed to offset. I think doing that meat offset the charcoal and you just getting that flavor profile and it's cooking from the residual heat inside of the dome. That's barbecuing. But like I said, you can grill on a Weber as well, but
there's a local author, Gary Wiviott. He's a friend of Phil's as well. And he wrote a book called Low and Slow, and he had it where you work on a Weber Smoky Mountain, but he also adjusted the way you work things on a Weber grill, so you had the effect of smoking. And then later on, he did a book where he had the green egg and other things. But yeah, it's an interesting challenge. By the way, and back into the conversation of pork, somebody's pork has the old school parasite issue, which doesn't exist these days, and pork's leaner and significantly less fatty than back in the day. Yeah, it doesn't have trichinosis anymore.
Not funny, but yeah. Yeah, like I said, I think we've moved away from the stigma that pork is just a nasty, or pig is a nasty animal to eat. Like I said, there are regulations in how animals are being raised, and I like to believe that the FDA is trying to keep us as healthy as possible. Terrible time to say something like that with all the foodborne or listeria outbreak and things like that, but these things are going to happen as long as there's food being processed, and so we can only hope that our best interest is being kept.
Oh, sure. And this person went on to say, like all of us, pork has been on a diet. And it really is. It's not, we
That's
don't
so
eat the pork that once was. And then Elaine pointed out, obviously, many Jews and Muslims don't eat pork.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that is, we're really seeing, someone reached out to me recently. We're really seeing an uptick in Halal Concepts.
Mm-hmm.
And for a long time here in Chicago, anyway, if you've seen a halal restaurant, it was always kind of the same concept. And now you're seeing halal taco restaurants. And so people are interested in these different halal concepts. And so you might see something on the horizon. I'll just leave it
That would be cool. And I hope when you do one of these things come over the horizon, you'll drop me a note so I can help push it along. Between Scott and myself and the people here tonight, is there anything we didn't ask you that you'd love to talk about?
No, I can't think of anything.
We talked you out?
No, you and Scott covered you guys had some good questions. A lot of times I don't even look at the questions prior to these But I looked at yours and well, these are some good questions. So
They were meaty questions, huh?
yes, very barbecue heavy questions. But like I mentioned before, Scott, I'm certainly making an effort at I know even I just did another Food Network show and they were like, oh, we want you to do X, Y, and Z. And I was like, oh, that sounds great. But I'd prefer not to do barbecue. And they're like, what? And I'm like, yeah, I'd like to cook. Here's a list of things I would prefer to cook. And they're like, look, we get it, but you're the queen of barbecue. And that's basically what we want to see out of you.
You've been
But
typecast.
yeah, well, I'm gonna ride the wave. But when I get an opportunity, I like to mention that I'm well versed in other cuisines, and it's like I've had a barbecue restaurant for 5 years, but for 15 years I cooked in fine dining and catering environments.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to show that you know more. I just read the other day where Henry Winkler, the Fonz from Happy Days,
Uh-huh.
when he met his future son-in-law for the first time, he made the mistake of mentioning the Fonz, and he got all upset because he didn't want to be typecast. You know, I know I can do that, but I have other projects I want to do. Yeah, that becomes very true. Very true. Well, I was thrilled with this evening, and I was thrilled with our meeting that we had back in January. Scott, you want to sign us out?
Yes, thank you so much again for all your tasty food for thought tonight. It was wonderful, and keep on smoking.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you for
It's an
coming.
honor.
It truly was.